Hello and welcome to 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐬 Bundesliga Matchday 9. No one failed from the favorites Ronan Murphy in the previous weekend. Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, Dortmund, Leipzig, Stuttgart, all of them won.
Yeah, it was a great week for the leading pack, and there wasn't much change at the top, and we still see Bayer Leverkusen winning the pack, and I think people were kind of tagging Harry Kane in memes and pictures showing the top of the Premier League table with Tottenham at the top and the top of the Bundesliga table where Bayern Munich are not at the top. So yeah, I'd say it's an interesting time for Harry Kane, looking to see how Tottenham are doing back in England.
Probably not his fault. 9 goals scored in the Bundesliga. He also scored in the Champions League against Galatasaray. So I don't think we should blame Harry Kane, but Spurs, they are doing great. And Bayern Munich is still, of course, in the title race, so almost qualified for the last 16 rounds. So where Bayern supporter wants to see Bayern Munich, time to analyze this new match day. Remember, guys, to ask any question to Ronan Murphy. And, of course, if you enjoy our shows, press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And we also have an exclusive welcome bonus for you. If you are looking for a welcome bonus, 1xBet offers you 130% thanks to this promo with Oddspedia. You have the promo code Oddspedia YouTube and the link in the description. Ronan, the first game in this European week is going to be on Friday, Bochum, Mainz. These are the worst teams in the competition so far, the only teams with no victories. Bochum 4 points, Mainz only 2. When we see these kind of games, we also have many examples in Europe. This week, we usually go for the draw because they are so bad that the draw is very likely.
Yeah, the draw looks appetizing. It's on the screen there, 3.68. It looks tasty enough at the moment. And unfortunately, when we have busy European weeks and the Bundesliga obviously has a lot of teams in Europe this season, we end up with terrible games like this on a Friday evening. It's not looking the most appealing. And like you said, neither team has any wins, so it's a proper relegation 6-pointer. This one really, and they're both looking for their first win, but I'm not sure this is going to be one for the football purists. Maybe it's not going to be the most entertaining. You look at the stats so far this season, no wins, but both teams are averaging less than a goal a game. It's 0.8 to 0.9, so it doesn't look like one that it's even going to be a high scoring affair between two bad teams. They're both teams that are not in form. They haven't really got going yet this season, and the head-to-head in previous years, it's pretty even as well. Three wins each and no draws. So maybe this will be, like you said, this will be the one that kind of keeps that symmetry there, that there's 3 wins each and then 1 draw, and the draw looks pretty good. And I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of goals in this game. So correct score 0-0 is 14. That could be an option. One of our commenters, 𝐿𝐴𝐬𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿, is seeing both teams to score, but my tip for this one is the exact opposite. I think both teams to score 2.25. It's around at the moment, and I think that the way that the teams are playing, they'll both be kind of looking to get a win, obviously, but both teams, they just can't seem to score themselves. So I'm not sure it's going to be a high-scoring affair. So I think both teams to score looks like a decent option for this one.
Well, at home, Bochum, they've scored in every single game this season, even if their numbers are not very good, but they keep scoring so far. 3 goals scored and 5 goals conceded. Again, at home, all the games they were able to be in the score sheet, but these two teams are really bad. So probably a draw could be a good idea, or halftime draw. For instance, the soccer squad is telling us. Let's try to find more exciting games. Augsburg. Wolfsburg is the next one, not really exciting as well, to be honest. Augsburg with 8 points, at least they beat Heidenheim. It was a festival of goals. They were losing 2-0 and ended up winning 2-5. Wolfsburg, losing to Leverkusen, losing to Stuttgart, lost 3 out of the last 4 games. This one is very tough to predict, Ronan.
Yeah, I think so, especially with the way Wolfsburg have been playing this season and the way Augsburg, I know they got their first win of the season last week, and it was a comeback win 5-2, like you said. But the new manager, he's obviously instilled something in them already, that they were able to kind of keep their heads up, and once they went 2-0 down, that it wasn't a case of more of the same, which we kind of had been seeing under Enrico Maaßen before 𝐸𝐴 came and took charge. So maybe after the international break, this could be a different sort of Augsburg team. That it was the first time in the Bundesliga history that they actually came back from 2 goals down to win a game. So that's the perfect start. They had 5 different players on the score sheet, so they were spreading the goals around too. They don't seem dependent on one player. So that it gives optimism for Augsburg fans, I think, going forward, that maybe they've made the right call with the new manager. He obviously doesn't have experience at this level before, but we've seen him at previous clubs what he can do. Wolfsburg this season, yeah, they've had 4 wins, 4 defeats, 11 goals for, 11 goals against. So they're kind of the exact the model of consistent inconsistency, I suppose you could say. Looking at the past results in this match, 0-0 is the most common result here. Last season it was 1-1 in this fixture, and 2-2 in the game where Wolfsburg at home. So a draw, 3.75, looks pretty tasty here, you would got to think. But if you want to play it a bit safer, Wolfsburg Asian handicap 0 minus 1.73, I think it will be my tip here.
Okay, Wolfsburg only 1 victory when they play away, 3 defeats, only 4 goals scored. That's why you have to take in consideration some insurance, for instance, the Asian handicap 0, or as Ronan was mentioning, also the draw pays really well, of course. Uncertain, this Augsburg. Wolfsburg, we have much more certainties in the next one. Bayern Munich, Darmstadt. The problem always is finding good odds here, but if we are looking for good odds, Ronan, the thing is that Bayern, they are conceding goals in almost every game, also in the Champions League against Galatasaray, and Darmstadt is a team that is able to score. They've scored 13 goals this season, and the last the last 7 games were both teams to score for Darmstadt.
Yeah, I think Darmstadt have maybe surprised some people. Obviously, they're very open at the back, but they're willing to put men forward and try and score on counterattacks, and that's what they've been doing so far this season. We saw again last night in the Champions League that Bayern Munich are kind of shaky at the back, but they could have a huge boost this weekend. Thomas Tuchel was asked about it after the game, that there's a chance that Manuel Neuer is back between the sticks for this game this weekend. So that will be a huge difference. He will be such an upgrade on Sven Ulreich. Obviously, we haven't seen him play for a while, so we're not sure how rusty he will be. But I suppose even 8 out of 10, Manuel Neuer is going to be better than Sven Ulreich on his best day. So you would hope it's an upgrade if he does get the start in this game, and that could give Bayern Munich another chance to maybe improve at the back, and that's where they've been letting themselves down so far this season. And against a team like Darmstadt, it's kind of the perfect opportunity for that, because you don't predict them to get a lot of opportunities against Bayern Munich. This could be a game where Bayern Munich kind of run away with it. There could be lots of goals in it for it. Obviously, we've seen Harry Kane. You mentioned how well he's scoring and how quickly he's scoring, the 4th quickest goal scorer to 9 goals in Bundesliga history. So he could make that 10 obviously this weekend. He's obviously a safe tip in any goal scorer market every week, and especially against a team like Darmstadt. And yeah, I think Bayern Munich are kind of finding their feet properly under Thomas Tuchel now. It's their best start to the Bundesliga in 7 years, and they're with 20 points after 8 games, and it's 5 more points than they had last season. So it's a kind of a perfect start to the season. And despite what the table is saying, I think Tuchel will be happy with how things are going. And One of our commenters there, 𝐿𝐴𝐴, is saying Sané anytime goal scorer. Yeah, I think if he's restored to the right, it could be a huge boost for him, because he seems to be playing much better on the right, and he was playing on the left in the match last night. So if he's playing on the right again, I would expect him maybe to get on the score sheet, especially against a team like Darmstadt. We should be seeing a lot of goals here. There might be some value to be found in stuff like Bayern home 1.35, or Bayern to win both halves 1.73, or maybe even if Neuer does start, Bayern to keep a clean sheet just under 2. There could be some value in that. But I'm looking at this to be a high scoring affair. I think Bayern will get lots of goals. So, like on the screen, over 4.25 goals. I think there could be 7 goals in this. This could be one of these matches where you look at it and you were like, Kane scored a hat-trick and Sané got 2 and Coman got 1. It could be one of them sort of games.
It looks like this kind of game. Hussein thinks that Darmstadt could sneak a goal also, both teams to score. If you want some high odds, you have to go for a really high scoring game for Bayern. Also, they will be rested after playing on Tuesday in the Champions League, and we aiming to score many goals. Next game, Gladbach, Heidenheim. Very disappointing this season for Gladbach so far. Lost to Cologne, only 2 victories this season, and it was against poor teams like Bochum and Augsburg. They have many problems in the back, conceded 19 goals, and now they host Heidenheim. They have more points than Gladbach, by the way, this season, but away from home. Only 1 draw. I guess it's time for Gladbach to win, but not sure if it's worth our time. 1.88 for the local team to win.
Yeah, I think it could be the time for Gladbach maybe to start winning and to put the money where their mouth is, essentially. Because in that game against Cologne, they did lose, but they were doing well until they got the red card. 𝐿𝐴𝐴 was sent off, and after that they ended up losing 3-1. And I think if he hadn't been sent off, they probably would have went on to win that game. It was a 3-1 defeat, but two of those goals for Cologne were penalties, and the other one was a late goal with Gladbach kind of trying to chase the match at that stage. So I think the scoreline maybe doesn't reflect what happened on the pitch, which is obviously little value to gamblers. But yeah, it was one of those games, and yeah, 𝐿𝐴𝐴, he's getting really tired of Gladbach, and I think many people are. They seem to be kind of putting in these performances that are close but not quite getting them over the line. And 𝐿𝐴𝐴 is now banned for 2 games. He'll miss this match and he'll miss the Freiburg game following it. So he's a big loss to their midfield. And I think Heidenheim themselves, they're coming off the back of a bad result. They were winning 2-0 and they let that slip. They lost 5-2 to Augsburg. It's not a kind of game that you want to remember. They'll want to move on quickly from this, but perhaps a trip to Gladbach isn't the best way to bounce back. They were just terrible at the back in that Augsburg game. Augsburg had 6 shots on target. They scored 5. It was one of those matches. So yeah, I think there could be some value here. Marco Paul is saying Gladbach to win and over 1.5. It seems decent enough. Both teams to score is just over 1.5 as well, and total goals over 3.5 is 2.3. There could be some value in those sort of bets, but I think Gladbach, their odds seem to be lengthening as the week goes on. So I think here I would just be looking at Gladbach to win, and hopefully that happens and they can start kind of climbing the table from here.
Let's see, because right now they are in the 13th spot with only 6 points, 2 points more than Cologne or Bochum in the relegation spots. Next game, Stuttgart, Hoffenheim. Only positive things about the Stuttgart. They look unstoppable. 14 goals now for Guirassy, beating Union Berlin 3-0 away. They won the last 6 games for Hoffenheim. Also a really good season, even if they lost to Frankfurt. By the way, these 2 teams haven't drawn yet a game, Stuttgart or Hoffenheim, 0 draws in this Bundesliga. And someone was asking you, Ronan, in our previous video, what has changed for this Stuttgart from being a relegation struggler until being a top 4 team right now?
Yeah, I think their setup is different, and obviously the coaching change is different. And Sebastian Hoeneß seems to be doing a great job. Things have kind of changed around. Marco Paul is saying Stuttgart are the new Union Berlin, which is great praise for them. But hopefully the new Union Berlin this season and not last season Union Berlin and not this season's one, because they look terrible at the moment. So if this could be one of these seasons where everything goes right for Stuttgart and we see them kind of come crashing back to earth next season. But while they are playing this well, long may it continue. And the only kind of doubt you would have for them at the moment is that 𝐿𝐴Z𝐬, after scoring in that game, he picked up an injury, so he's going to be out for a few weeks. And he will be a huge blow for them because he is kind of such a talismanic figure for them at the moment. He's scoring so many goals. He's involved in other goals that he's not scoring, but maybe the positive that they could take away from that match is that the fact that they played 60 minutes without him and they still were able to win that 60 minutes 2-0, and their forwards got on the score sheet. Undav scored and Siles scored, so they were able to get goals from other players with 𝐿𝐴Z𝐬 out, and they won't have him in this game against Hoffenheim. And you were saying neither team here have a draw. A draw here could be on the cards, but because both games between the two sides last season were both draws, so I think Stuttgart, the only thing is that maybe they can continue their good form this season. They have 7 wins, 1 loss, 25 goals for, 5 against. Like their stats are fantastic so far this season. And Hoffenheim, they have 3 losses so far this season, but all their losses so far this season have been at home, surprisingly. So maybe this will be the first match where they get defeated in an away game. I think Stuttgart's odds here are tempting enough for me to make that my tip for this game. Stuttgart to win 1.9.
Well, trusting again Stuttgart, if the streak is keeping on, why not trust Stuttgart again? Although at one point, I guess they should drop points. It looks like this Stuttgart from 2006. I think it was with Javi Khedira, for instance, in the team. This Stuttgart in the upper spots of the standings, a team that suffered in the last seasons, but this season they are doing the things really, really good. And talking about the Union Berlin of last season, let's talk about the Union Berlin of this season. Traveling to Bremen, they keep losing and losing and losing in the Champions League against Napoli, in the Bundesliga against Stuttgart, making 9 consecutive games with defeat. The last victory, or the last no defeat, was in August. So imagine that it was still hot in Europe. And Werder Bremen, close to the relegation spots, only 6 points. This game is also a tough one to call. The bookies expect a draw, Ronan.
Yeah, they do, and you can see why, because obviously, like you said, Union's last win was in August, and Werder Bremen's last win at home was in September. So yeah, it's not one where either team has a lot of form going into this game. I think Union Berlin, the problems on the pitch seem to be kind of seeping off the pitch at the moment, and in that Champions League game where they lost, Fofana had a bust up with the manager, and he was disappointed at being substituted, and he was forced to apologise after the game. And we had hoped that he would be someone that would be a difference maker for Union Berlin this season. Obviously, Chelsea have high hopes for him, and they hoped that he would go out on loan there and get goals. But anytime he seems to be playing well, he doesn't seem to start the next game. So Urs Fischer is he's kind of experimenting too much. He's tried to go back to basics in recent weeks, but he's still not set on a particular starting 11. You also seen kind of rumours come out that Bonucci wanted a meeting with the boss this week because he's been dropped in the Champions League games, and that's why he moved there. So things don't seem to be going right at all for Union Berlin this season, and it could be a long, difficult season for them, and this could be another one where they add another L to that consecutive defeat kind of record, because they looked terrible in the last game against Stuttgart. They had only 1 shot on target, and they had 41% possession in a home game, and that's not really what you want your team to be doing. You want that stadium that they play in. It's a small stadium that's even too small for the Champions League. They're not allowed to play there, so that should be a kind of fortress where where teams are afraid to go. But with the way Union Berlin are playing this season, nobody's afraid to face them. They just seem to be all over the place on and off the pitch, and I think Bremen win 2.7. It definitely looks appealing to me as the week goes on, and as we get closer to Saturday, it'll become even more appealing, I think, because we'll hear more and more about this kind of Union Berlin affairs off the pitch, the Bonucci, Fofana, all these kind of problems that in the dressing room that are now being made public. But if you want to be a bit safer, Bremen Asian handicap 0 is 1.92. I think that could be a good tip for this one.
Okay, Marco telling us twins of the Bundesliga, both teams with 6 points, 2 victories, 6 defeats, no draws as well for Werder Bremen and Union Berlin. Fischer to be sacked. Someone is telling us, Corello is telling us, and Soccer Squad.
On that, I don't think he will be sacked. I think he's done too much in recent years to be sacked, but they'll at least let him have the Champions League and see where we are after the winter break. Maybe if they're still struggling by the time that comes, then he could be sacked. All right.
Well, we saw Ranieri, for instance, being sacked after winning the Premier League for Leicester. So I think we've seen all, and there is not a lot of patience in football. Let's see if Union Berlin can bounce back. The distraction of the Champions League is almost over with 0 points, can be over in a couple of weeks if they lose again in Napoli. Next game, it's a tough week, this one for betting in the Bundesliga, because next one is Leipzig Cologne, and in this one the odds obviously are very low. 1.4 is not a bad one for a safe bet, I think. Trusting Leipzig to beat at home Cologne, a team with only 4 points, with only 1 victory, and this Leipzig is still seeing the scorer that they signed, Luis Openda, scoring a brace, telling us that it was a top-notch signing for Leipzig.
Yeah, Leipzig seem to be making these top-notch signings. Obviously, we've spoken in past weeks about Xavi Simons. So, yeah, Openda seems to be another great signing. And as long as they don't have to rely on Timo Werner too much, they seem to be getting success. It seems to be the Timo Werner they sold to Chelsea is not the Timo Werner that came back. It's the Timo Werner of Chelsea that's come back, and he doesn't seem to be able to do.
Havertz or Werner are not to be trusted.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No matter who signs them, they both seem like broken players and not the players that we saw in the Bundesliga the first time around. So don't trust either of them. But Leipzig do have a lot of players that you can trust in, thankfully. And yeah, like you were saying, that 1.46 looks great odds for this match, especially with Leipzig playing at home in the evening game on Saturday. And I think Cologne are finding things difficult themselves this season. They're kind of struggling to get goals. They're averaging less than a goal a game themselves, and they even won 3-0 last week, or they scored 3 goals last week, and it's still not bringing their average up to more than a goal a game. So Leipzig, on the other hand, are averaging 2.4 goals a game. So you would expect them to easily put this one to bed, and it could be one where Leipzig take the lead early and then continue on and keep the result and the momentum going themselves. So my tip for this would be home. That Leipzig will win. They'll take the lead and then go on and win comfortably.
Okay, trust on Leipzig. Let's see later if this is your safe bet, but looks like a good one for these odds. And on Sunday, we have 2 games, good games, probably the best ones in this match day. Eintracht Frankfurt, Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund, they are also in really good form. We don't trust them too much, but 5 consecutive victories in the Bundesliga. The problem for them is that they have a tough game in the Champions League against Newcastle, and also Frankfurt is waking up after a tough start, back-to-back victories in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, it does seem like Frankfurt are kind of hitting form at the right time, but as we've seen, Dortmund, they seem unbeatable at the moment, and they're on the longest consecutive run without defeat in German football in any division. So I think it's up to 16 games at the moment that they've gone in domestic football without losing. So they're on a very good run at the moment, and that kind of shows where they are in the table too. And you look at this one and you think that Dortmund should be able to win it. It should be another one to add to their bow, because Frankfurt, although they've kind of bounced back, you would think that Dortmund are stronger on paper than Frankfurt, and this should be a match where Thursday should be aiming to pick up another 3 points. And like we said in last week's show, that he will be looking to continue his winning streak going into the big match against Bayern Munich. Their classic are coming up, so they can't afford to kind of slip up in a match like this before that game, because it's such a big match for them. And I think this could be one where both teams will get involved in the goals. And if you look at the last 5 years of the games between the two of them, every game where Frankfurt have been at home, both teams have scored in. So history is on our side for lots of goals in this game. And the only 2 games in that period where Frankfurt haven't scored, they were both 4-0 wins for Borussia Dortmund. So it's either going to be probably a draw or a 4-0 win for Borussia Dortmund is what it seems like. But yeah, I think Dortmund -1 on the European handicap at 4.2 looks interesting for me. But Borussia Dortmund obviously 2.27, but I'm not going to include Borussia Dortmund in my accumulator this week, because they seem to be the one team that breaks it anytime I put them in, so I'm going to avoid them again. But I'm looking at both teams to score yes, because history's on their side for it. So yeah, both teams to score yes seems a safe one for me here.
Well, the thing is that in this season, we are not seeing many goals in Frankfurt games. We check the statistics that we have in Oddspedia in the Bundesliga page. Under 2.5 goals is been in 7 out of the 8 games played by Eintracht Frankfurt, and the second team with more under is Dortmund with 4 out of 8. But the bookies still trust goals in this game. As you were mentioning, even if you go for the under 2.5 goals, is 2.4. They expect goals, as you do, Ronan, with 1.6. Let's see if Dortmund, they are able to beat Frankfurt. Only 1 defeat for Frankfurt this season. Is a very low scoring team with 6 goals conceded only in this Bundesliga. And talking about goals, if we see Leverkusen in the mix, we are always expecting goals. Leverkusen Freiburg is the last game we have in the Bundesliga. Also, this Freiburg is much less defensive, or is much more leaky than last season. They've conceded 14 goals in this Bundesliga, Freiburg already. And they are getting slightly better also with the distraction of Europe for both sides, especially Freiburg, because Leverkusen, they should be in the last 16 of the Europa League. Ronan, keep trusting Leverkusen and goals, no, I guess.
Yeah, I would, yeah. It seems to be that Leverkusen score every game, and they score a lot of goals in every game, and they've now scored 2 or more goals in their last 11 consecutive games in all competitions. And like you said, they're playing the Europa League and they're facing Karabag this Thursday, so that should make it 12 games with 2 or more goals, and that'll be a new club record. So Xabi Alonso definitely has them scoring lots of goals, and that's what we could see against Freiburg. Like you said, they've been leaky so far this season. They've obviously had kind of fitness and injury problems at the back, and that hasn't helped. And I think they just don't look to be the same kind of strongly disciplined, kind of rigid tactical team that we're used to seeing from Christian Streich. And maybe he's been there for so long, maybe his methods aren't working as well as they might have once done. But yeah, it seems to be that Freiburg are on the downward slope, and Bayer Leverkusen are definitely on the upward slope. I think all the tips that are coming in, Marco Paul, Leverkusen -1, Corello, Leverkusen -1.5, they definitely look worthwhile. Leverkusen obviously are low enough at 1.36 to win this match. I think there could be lots of goals in it. Total goals over 3 is 1.78. Could be worth looking at as well. But overall, I'm looking at Bayer Leverkusen to win this, and on the Asian handicap -1.75, the odds are 2.2 there. So I think that could be worth looking at.
Mr. Arteco is telling us that this is too risky because we shouldn't underestimate Freiburg. Well, they've been very good in the last seasons, qualifying for Europe, so we are not underestimating them, but we have to trust on Leverkusen. They are the best team so far in Germany. Well, Ronan, this is it for the 9th match day in the Bundesliga. Which one is your safe bet?
Yeah, like some of our listeners said earlier, my safe bet is RB Leipzig to win 1.46.
Yeah, we were all spotting this one is a good one. Our international ACCA was correct, by the way, the previous week. You were also correct in your safe bet. And the ACCA, the Bundesliga ACCA of the week?
Yeah, Dortmund let me down in the ACCA again, so yeah, stay away from them. My ACCA this week is Bayern to win both halves, Gladbach to win, RB Leipzig to win, and Bayer Leverkusen to win.
All right, you have it there. A lot of favorites been really favorite in this Bundesliga, and they are proving us correct. They are winning. No, Borussia Dortmund, 𝐿𝐴𝐵 is going to take your ACCA. Stay away from Dortmund. Also, in the Champions League is a tough game in Newcastle in St. James's Park. Well, Ronan, thanks everyone for watching. See you next week with the Bundesliga. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.